When you think of the Trojan War, three things probably jump to mind immediately: a 10-year siege, a giant wooden horse rolled through city gates, and an invincible Greek warrior shot in his one weak heel. But if you actually open Homer's Iliad, the foundational text that gave us this entire legend, you will find no mention of a hollow wooden horse and no mention of Achilles' vulnerable heel. This timeline shows the full 10 years of the mythological conflict, but the Iliad covers just a few weeks in the 9th year of the war, and then ends before the city of Troy actually falls. This raises a specific question. If the famous beats of the Trojan War are missing from its primary source, what was Homer actually recording, and who shaped the story we tell today? Our modern version of the Trojan War is a patchwork of different sources. By projecting those later myths backward onto the original epic, we hide the psychological focus of the ancient story. The actual text of the Iliad is a contained narrative. It starts in medias res, smack in the middle of the action, to follow the consequences of one man's anger. The inciting incident is a dispute over status. The Greek commander, Agamemnon, seizes a captive woman belonging to his best fighter, Achilles. Feeling disrespected, Achilles withdraws his troops from the fighting and sits in his tent. That decision triggers a domino effect. Without Achilles, the Greek army starts collapsing under Trojan pressure. They are pushed all the way back to their ships until Achilles' closest friend, Patroclus, borrows the hero's armor to rally the men. The narrative turns here. Patroclus successfully pushes the Trojans back, but in the chaos, outside the walls, he is killed on the battlefield by the Trojan prince, Hector. When word reaches Achilles, his anger dissolves into grief. He eventually returns to the field in armor forged by the gods, driven to hunt down the man who killed his friend. The violence reaches its peak outside the city gates. Achilles kills Hector in single combat, then ties the body to the back of his chariot and drags it through the dirt to defy the gods. The story only resolves when Hector's father, King Priam, sneaks into the enemy camp at night. He kneels in Achilles' tent and begs for his son's body. Seeing the old man's tears, Achilles relents, and they mourn together. The Iliad ends with Hector's funeral. The story isn't a documentary about conquering a city. It's a study of how a warrior's pride and grief destroy the people around him. If Homer ended the book before the city fell, we have to look elsewhere to see how the rest of the mythology was built. Before it was written down, the epic was an oral tradition. For centuries, bards performed and tweaked these verses from memory. Homer is likely a collective name for generations of storytellers who shaped the poem over time. Homer could leave out the end of the war because his original audience already knew the surrounding lore. This web shows the Iliad at the center of a larger ecosystem of myths. Over time, poets wrote separate epics to fill narrative gaps. We call this the epic cycle, texts tackling prequel and sequel stories surrounding the main event. But the specific versions of the myths we recognize today were formally canonized much later by the Romans. Roman poets adapted the Greek source material to create their own cultural origin stories. The definitive account of the Trojan horse actually appears here. This is from Virgil's Aeneid, a Roman epic written hundreds of years after the Iliad. The mythology of Troy was never a single book by one author. It was an open-source universe built by countless voices over generations. This history changes how we view the characters. While modern versions of Achilles focus on magical invincibility and a weak heel, Homer's Achilles is a mortal man who is capable of bleeding and dying. The Iliad ignores the mythological gimmicks and the full 10-year history to force the audience to focus on human emotion. The poem uses micro-narratives to reflect the wider world. The descriptions of Achilles' shield show scenes of harvests, weddings, and judicial disputes, reminding the audience of the peace and life carrying on outside the walls of Troy. Homer's focus on human flaws turned a specific battle into a universal cycle. This poem remains a record of the personal toll of conflict, showing that the weight of war is carried by individuals long after the cities have fallen.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, share, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'll see you in the next episode.